Good morning and welcome to Writers Chat. We're so glad you're here. This is where writers gather to talk about all things writerly. And our usual, our usual co-hosts are not with us today, but Melissa and Brandy and I will take good care of you. And we're here to learn more about time blocking, and more on that. I'm going to pass it off to Melissa.
Oh, morning, everybody. Yeah, I have the pleasure of introducing, well, to our community, she's no stranger, so she almost needs no introduction for them. But for those who might be attending first hand, this is your first time here, or for those who are watching the recording, I will read Patricia's bio for you. Dedicated to bringing order to her life and making space for creativity, Patricia Tiffany Morris invents geeky ways to wrangle the battling tendencies of our left and right brain endeavors. And as an award-winning artist, writer, and as an illustrator, tech enthusiast, and font creator, she uses color and mindful planning to increase her daily productivity and find time for a wide variety of pursuits. And today, Patricia is going to be sharing with us how to increase your productivity with time blocking. And she'll have a kind of a fun new spin on it for us to kind of help, like I say, work with both sides of the brain so we can kind of embrace it all. And we're looking forward to it. They always have such great presentations. So take it away, Patricia.
Thank you. A little history about myself. I have perfectionist leanings, and those of you that know the 100 different projects I attempt at one time, and probably from a lot of the social media posts, would know me. I have a tendency to leave horrific messes around my house, whether it's plotting a story with sticky notes, printing out papers, crossing them out, and leaving stacks everywhere, or whether it's an art project that has all the paintbrushes and paint and such, and I'm on to the next project. I discovered digital art recently and digital planners over the last 2 to 3 years. And so that piece is a little bit greater because I've got those sort of tools now. I am blessed to have both sides of my brain firing pretty much together, especially when I sleep. And that sometimes is more of a challenge than doing a lot of projects. I have put together a PowerPoint for you, and I'm going to share my screen now. And I'll go ahead and stop my camera so I can give my full Wi-Fi to the presentation. And let me adjust this just for a minute here. All right, so the title is also being planned and adjusted and changed, just as time blocking itself is a process, and it's not a finished work of art. It's not a neat little calendar that we see with bright colors. It's a process of managing our time. And gonna let that go through. I thought I turned off the sound. There we go. And some of the things that I've worked on in apps, software, technical kind of things. My background is engineering and architecture, and during the pre-pandemic, I had both Mac and Windows computers and was involved in a lot of different projects for the homeschool community and for my family. And I love spreadsheets. I love all those kind of things. And so I've been doing the planning, the working with the creative arts and all of that. Then during the pandemic, this Zoom room appeared, and I'd never experienced that. Programs when I started writing in 2019. I'm a fairly new writer. Scrivener, Procreate is a digital art app. There's a huge amount of just fun apps like Plotter and other things. And this chart I made in Scapple, and this is one other way to plan and block out different areas of time, although I use this for my introduction. The idea of mindful planning that increases our productivity. There's this thing called time blocking, and there's another term you'll hear around the internet without the space between the words. It's called time boxing. Elon Musk has familiarized the world with that term. And today I'm going to do just a little bit of a spin on this and call it time blocking blobs. And we'll give you a little bit of a geeky combination of different planning methods to help you visualize a schedule that's got flexibility as well as some structure that will help optimize productivity in any way you put these tips and ideas together. This is the Wikipedia definition, not extremely exciting, but it's a productivity technique. And it's using smaller bits or blocks to do specific tasks that could be on your to-do list, things that need scheduling, or sometimes they just don't happen. And it also, through the inventors of this method, they talk about how it discourages unproductive multitasking. And I had the impression that multitasking was a good thing, that it was allowing us to be more productive and do more. So this kind of threw that idea and gave me some pause to consider how that might not be as productive as I thought it was. There are variations of time blocking emerging. You'll see online that there's total task scheduling, like putting everything on your schedule. And people that are extremely obsessive and really want to know what their day is going to look like, it's more rigid. And it's auto schedulers that manage your time for you. Doctors' offices, you know, they've got to know when they start an appointment and they're done. Total task storage is something that applies to your apps. And then there's partial task, where means you can use a calendar app for the most of your tasks, and then you have a separate disconnected or a digital calendar to schedule other activities. And time blocking uses all those type of things. And I'm going forward, not backwards. Here we go. So our problems are many in all different areas of our life, but according to time management, we all have 24 hours. And of course, we wouldn't want to block time away from our sleep. So that's the first thing that goes in your schedule is, when are you going to sleep? When are you going to set that bedtime? And that is the first thing that I don't do in my schedule. And one thing that I've had a goal for a really long time, I'd like to be able to do that. We also have more stress than previous generations, and managing our time has become increasingly challenging with technology. How many of you have had to update your apps and your software at least once a month over the last year? It's absolutely incredible how quick it's going. There are many different methods to managing productivity. You might decide you want to do paper and pen or bullet journals. And if you heard of Trello or Asana, Gantt charts, the Notion app, Obsidian are ways to connect with a combination of notes and charts. Calendars, wall calendars, desk planners, daily, weekly, monthly, happy planners, seat of your pants planners, Franklin Covey system, digital planners like the Apple Calendar and Google Calendar. Fantastical, good notes. Structured is one of my favorite apps. Todoist, GTD, Getting Things Done, is another system. Caffeine and amphetamine. Yes, there are apps that are called that help you manage your time. Time tracking, Blocky Time app that Apple just came out with. An egg timer or alarms and notifications in all these apps. You can use your phone timer, a focus app, desk calendar. What about time in between your work? How do you schedule that? Or do you have a secretary or an office manager that helps schedule? What about the sticky notes on the back of envelopes? Time blocking or none? Are you not managing your time at all? because this is incredibly overwhelming. So here's one solution. And it's just a solution. We're going to look at a brief look at a few tools and methods that are available. We're going to find and embrace the way your brain best processes information, because that dictates and informs the choices of these apps or these methods. And we're going to look at a combined approach, whether online or traditional planners, through the method of time blocking. Cal Newport has created a time blocking method book called The Time Block and the Time Block Planner, a daily method for deep work in a distracted world. The planning may take time up front, but it will return much greater productivity for the entire week that follows. He advocates using both sides of our brain, but in the time blocking, he is focused on the analytical, organized side of, and his pages do not look pretty. I'm going to show you an example of those. And so if you're a person who is creative, and many writers are, we kind of want that artistic, creative little elements to our planners. Think of happy planners that have stickers and all the beautiful bullet journals. But time blocking itself is a much more simple and straightforward method. And I say, why fight either side of our brains? And let's try to use both of them. And of course, not in equal measure, depending on who you are and the way you best learn. So you would know yourself, and you know, are you more analytical or are you more artsy? And you can choose some of these methods, some of these tools with the time blocking method to make the best use of your time and allow your brain to be most productive. So time blocking and time management. Time blocking, according to the internet and the history of total task scheduling, is a really fun article. I've got that reference at the bottom, and several of these. I'll try to put a reference sheet together so you can look at these. Ben Franklin is the first one that used this idea of time blocking. Cal Newport maybe popularized it, but there are several other people that use this. Elon Musk calls it time boxing, and he uses smaller increments of time, sometimes even 5-minute blocks of time. And he's on to the next thing. If during that 5 minutes, the thing that he's planned hasn't happened, he's right on. Cal Newport uses 30-minute blocks, and various research that I've done, there's a lot of different blocks of time. You've seen the Google calendars, 15-minute blocks of time. There's another time management method called Get Things Done. If you've ever heard of GTD, Get Things Done by David Allen, it's a method of organizing all the areas of your life. It is the file systems on your computer. It is, I'm trying to get my heater up here. I'm getting cold. There we go. So David Allen has put together this system, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but if you've never heard of that particular method, that also is just an amazing side to the time blocking, and the idea that you put things together with acronyms. So the word PARA, P-A-R-A, you put together your projects, everything that goes under that. A is for areas, and you put all your interests and all your sort of wish list of things to do under that. And then you've got resources for R, and your archived stuff. And everything should fit under those 4 categories. And it's just an amazing idea to take all your files and folders and try to put them in that. Elaine Giles is another fun teacher from the UK. She has a favorite saying that is, your future you will thank past you for organizing your life and your files. Here's another quote from Cal Newport. Sometimes people ask why I bother with such a detailed level of planning. My answer is simple. It generates a massive amount of productivity. A 40-hour time blocked work week, I estimate, produces the same amount of output as a 60+ hour week pursued without structure. And so he's answering probably what people are asking Elon Musk, how can he have an 80-hour work week, by using this method and trying to work in chunks rather than the idea of multitasking. I'm going to take a 60-second brief history of the computer reference to blobs. And if you'll indulge my geeky self, I won't read everything here, but you can look through it. And the idea of an object, not necessarily a block or a square, but any sort of unknown shape, is a computer data storage terminology. And the idea of, we've got file systems, we've got block storage, and it's in different sort of rigid structure in our computers and in our digital life. But the main idea to pull out of that is that the data is managed as objects. And in this idea of time blocking, our tasks are going to be managed as objects instead of blocks. And even though they might be fairly square in nature, if we look at this idea of time blocking blobs, that data can be put into any sort of shape that we like. In computing, it's called a binary large object. In database systems, it's in cloud computing. And there we go. And in other science, it's part of our visual system, the sections of the visual cortex where color sensitive neurons assemble. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then of course we have the blobs, the slime mold species. And we have, sorry, that one's not seeing me. There we go. The Marvel comic supervillain and the 1958 American sci-fi film. And we have other terms for the blob. It's a nickname for foreign policy establishment in the US. I had no idea. And it's also the mascot of the Philadelphia Stars, if you like sports. So time management elements. When you look at the method for managing your time with time blocking, there has to be a start time and an end time, an estimated time to completion. And when I get to that one, that second one down, these are in no specific order whatsoever. And there's just a combination of research from a large variety of places that I collected these. But when I get to that second one, I have such a hard time estimating how much time it takes. And there's actually a term for that. There's some terminology and some syndrome, or not syndrome, but something that tells that we are very positive natured and we estimate very low. I mean, we think we can work out something in an hour and it takes us 2 to 3 hours. And that's whether you're a negative person or a positive person. They found that to be researched, that estimation to complete a job is way under what it actually takes. So remembering that one item, maybe double or triple the time you think you might need to complete an item before you start blocking that into your schedule. There's also alarms or some sort of timer. I say work what's best for your brain rather than trying to work with any one of these methods or systems. And have a system that doesn't fight with your priorities. You need to know what things have to get done and what things can be moved around. Understand that life happens and that you can move things around. And this time blocking is just one element of managing your time. Moves you toward greater productivity. And I also say if you need to be as creative as you want or as structured, and either want or need, and that it may change hourly, daily, weekly, and yearly. And don't be afraid to change your plans as things come up. So there are 3 parts of a good time management system. One is a calendar, like Google Cal or Apple's Calendar or any number of others. a to-do list or a note-taking or brainstorming section of this system. And they could be together, but generally it works better if they're not. And a timer or an alarm. I probably have 2 out of the 3 working at any one time. I would really love to have a goal to get all 3 of those elements working together. And I think I would be adding the timer maybe a little more efficiently would help me. But these are just some like definitions of these particular elements. And then I listed the dot bullet pages or note taking or brainstorming as maybe part of the to-do list, but they could be also separate. But these 3 are the main 3. So we're going to go through each one. Calendars, and you can just look through the variety of different names here. Maybe you recognize one that you use that you really like, or maybe you see one that you've heard somebody else talk about and you think you might want to try it. But any of these calendars would function as the first element in any time management system. And a to-do list. Some of the calendars also have to-do lists within them. I found those to be extremely cumbersome, limiting. I'm never in the calendar when I have something in my brain that I'm thinking I need to do. So I don't use my calendar as a to-do list at all. My husband does. He uses that all the time to stop and make lists. Bullet journal, Todoist, Trello, Asana, those are some main ones. But there's also the trackers, brainstorming pages, blank books, journals, and things like that that are very popular in the bullet journaling groups. And then the third thing is an alarm or a timer of some sort. Flashing lights, audible timers. I have a stopwatch on my phone. Again, the app that's called Caffeine, you can turn off the computer's ability to shut down and kind of block some things with a focus app. You can put notifications in pretty much any app nowadays and in your calendar, and you can use a traditional old egg timer, or my favorite is I'm asking my husband to say, can you remind me in 40 minutes to stand and walk around a little bit, because that's something I am not very good at doing. I get into that deep work and it's kind of like I'm sleepwalking. So he's a huge help. So these are my favorites. These are the tools that I use. And then you might be thinking, if you went through those varieties, if you've got a piece of paper with you, start making, just choose 3 to start with. And then we're going to do a couple activities later. Calendar. I use the Apple Calendar. I used to use FamCal, where my husband could share events, and it became quite cumbersome to add new events, and it was not connected to Google well at all. And when I started joining different classes and memberships, a lot of them used Google. So I went to that. And my Apple Calendar flows to another app I use for a timer and a to-do list. That's called Structured. And so that particular app and my Apple Calendar are my 2 main. And then I do use the phone timer and my hubby to help remind me. A fourth thing that I add, and I started this in 2019 when I started writing. I suppose I wrote poetry quite often before, but never considered myself a poet or a writer. But I started a bullet journal, and I use it when I need it. And I don't let it be like to dictate what I'm doing, but I use it as a tool to help me when I need to be more productive, when I need to dump some thoughts out, when I need to just color or think about what I'm going to be doing next. And the next group is going to be tips for time blocking and how to adjust for life changes and the unexpected, and then how to maybe apply this idea of the blobs rather than the blocks. I'll take just a brief break here. Does anyone have any statements or comments or questions?
lots of comments in the chat. I haven't seen any questions just yet. I'm scrolling back to see if anybody else noticed some that I missed. Chime in.
I love going back to those chats too. So that's wonderful to make comments there.
Some people have commented that some of this is feeling a little overwhelming for them. And I think that's because some of us can't deal very well with structuring our lives really compactly. And others of us have to have a structure, but it has to be loose because we have so many variables that just get in the way. Sally commented that in our family, you guess how long it takes to do something and you multiply by 2. In my family, when I have 7 kids plus a lot of special needs that require high maintenance, it's multiplied by 4. So everybody's got a lot of variabilities, but you know, this is looking really great, and everybody can customize it for what fits them in their lives.
Yes. Good. Well, and the idea of time blocking is when you listen and you research and you read people's articles, what they do, everybody has a different spin on it. Everybody has different personality. They have different tendencies for organization and maybe not. And so that is, and over life, things change. This particular Cal Newport that wrote quite a few books on this, he talks about how he works during the school year and then the summer, and he makes a point to say, now I don't do this all the time. I do take breaks and I do set it aside for a time, but when I need it to stay on task, I will pull it out and I will use it. So that's the other thing, is not to be letting it drive you and stress you and press on you, to let it be your tool to help you and put you back in the driver's seat to be able to manage your time the way you want to. And no, on time blocking, you do not have to fill every blob. And one of the things we'll look at is how to make rest in there and how to make these blobs not touch each other, so there's open space where you can move some things around. So one of the first tips for any sort of time management system is you've got to know the categories or areas of your life. Each person is going to have different categories of tasks or areas of that you might put on your calendar. So I've put the groups that are my main categories. I have one for work. That's my business name, Tiffany Inks Studio LLC. And it's a little bit funny because, I mean, I'm a single sole member. It's me, but that's the business. So I put that in a box, and that is my category of work. So on my calendar, when you see that, that's going to be that bluish teal color. And then I have art memberships that I'm join and classes I take that relate to more artistic endeavors rather than the writing. So I put that there. I also have word weaver critique groups and writing groups, and I put those in a little bit different blue. I have creating art, where I want to make space purposely to sit down and create collections of art and decide how that's all working. So I put that separate from art memberships, which are classes, and this is me just making something. And then I have my business organization, which will be financial, creating PayPal invoices, meetings with clients, that kind of stuff, in the pink. And then the financial is our house, our home, the bills we have. And then my husband's calendar, where we've all shared all this, and I can see his things are in yellow and such. So those kind of things. And let's see here. My mouse, and I was gonna say something at the front and decided not to, but what's happening is my mouse is going forward or backwards. And I think we just went way back. So if you'll give me just a little bit of grace here and see if I can get back to where I was. Okay, we're close. There we go. So if I just click it, let's see if this works. There we go. Thank you very much for your patience. So this is a snippet of my calendar, and on the left side, I don't have the ability right now to do a pointer, except Zoom has it, but I'm not sure with the way the mouse is. I want to try it. But on the left side of the screen, you'll see all those iCloud. Those are calendar groups. And yes, this takes some time setting it up, but if you can kind of look long term to once this is set up, how this would work to your benefit, helping you in productivity. The setup time, just committing to setting it up is sometimes really difficult, but I want to show you examples of how this can be helpful. So when you look at all those different areas, now you see my calendar with those colors, and it might look a little overwhelming when you see it kind of filled out, but this is a week that's done. So I have purposely during the day added things. So for example, the ACFW novel track, that was something I hadn't thought about scheduling, to check in with them and tell them how far I am with my editing. Anyway, I've put it on the calendar, just put a little blob on there, and that's going to be, and then in the notes of each of these calendar bits, I can go in there and change. This is something that the calendar setup is just invaluable in helping organize. Then you have subgroups. So within each of your calendar groups, you want to think, and this would be like a weekend project where you just set down what goes in to a work calendar, which things, my work in progress, my research, clients, the poetry groups, classes, those would all be things in the work. And then when you go to plan them, you've got this list already done. So you know where your groups are going to go and which color they're going to go. So the color then on your calendar on the next page shows you those teal colors. Those are my writing projects. The yellow is our family and my husband. The kind of the darker green is our finances and our personal taxes and things like that. And then when you see things that overlap, like the taxes and the 1 p.m. live portfolio on Wednesday, the 12th, I have to decide which one of those I'm going to do, whether I'm going to do this optional live portfolio presentation, or I'm going to keep my taxes during that time. And at that point, I chose to keep the taxes. But those are choices you can make during the day and move things around. These are really movable in most calendar systems. Okay, and I'll go quickly through the next. Setting priorities for these different work times. Before you fill up your calendar, before you do that week, you want to know which events are going to be repeatable. And so you've just cut down a full year's worth of scheduling a repeatable task. Sorry, I didn't say that right. A repeatable task by putting it in once and letting it go every week or every month or whatever it is. So my Word Weaver critique groups, I schedule that once at the beginning of the year. And in fact, I just let it never end because I don't know when I'm not going to be in Word Weavers. And by doing that once in some sort of a digital calendar, you have eliminated a lot of time. So that's the next thing you do. And then the deep work times, that's just what it sounds like. That's just like working on your work in progress. When do you want to do those? After you have your events, and I'm going to flip through this. After you have your appointments and fixed events, if any of them have a hard start time or an end time, they're going to go first, so that you don't accidentally cover over a child's school event or a doctor appointment or whatever. So those go in the week first. And most weekly is probably pretty good, monthly even, but set those hard appointments before you add in your deep work. Then you can group some of those tasks together. So if you've got email to send, the time blocking method suggests that you send those all in one block of time. So pick a time to do email. Don't just do an email, get out of email, go do something else, and then come back to email. The idea is grouping them together to be more productive. You're already in email, keep going, and you can copy and paste and do some extra shortcuts. Just like if you go to the grocery store, where else can you go to at the same time to save gas? Another tip is plan the night before and plan every day. So take 10 minutes every night, look at your calendar, what's the next day going to do? Is there any events? Do the kids, do my husband, do I have something I need to be in the Zoom room for, or do I have to pack for a trip? Every single night looking at that, and then you can rest in the evening. And the idea of readjusting often during the day. So Cal Newport's Time Block Planner has 2-page spreads. That's it. So simple that it's like, I'm not sure why, but when you learn about the method, it's amazing. So you look at the week ahead or the day ahead, and you put down everything that you think is coming up, just listing it. And then the next thing he suggests to do is to write tasks and ideas. And then this is all his time blocking is for the one day. This is a 1-day time blocking. So if you look at the very right, you see how he's crossed things out. So his first column is his plan for the day. And it's a 9 to 4:30 plan. And of course, he's in the work world, so he's got that. And then as he goes along, that didn't work. So he puts a new block from the time that he needed to deviate. And then at the very end of that middle column, he had to change it again. The planning team went too long. So then he shortened his shutdown, but he ends at 4:30 every day. So if that's you and you have an end time to your workday, this idea would work brilliantly. But if you don't have an end time and you've got a lot of things floating in the middle, you could do a variation of this. And toward the end here, these are some acronyms. I just made these up. If you like to create word poems, phrases, these are things you could add. I choose to look at this every once in a while and say, in the morning, I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to get up, be refreshed, and read some of the scripture. I need to inhale. I need to investigate what's on my schedule, and I need to do some things with intentionality, maybe that I don't want to. I don't actually maybe sing out loud, but the idea of just keeping the scripture in my heart, and then the idea of just making sure that I'm exercising and eating healthy, and that I'm being encouraging with my words. I can be very critical and be sitting for long hours at a time, and it's extremely unhealthy. But so having this in the morning, here's another one. If you like the idea of words that help remind you to do things, to whether it's not really a checklist item, but just an encouragement, this is another way. You could choose any of these words or create your own. Here's a third one, and this would be great in the evening. Make sure you stop for work and sleep, evaluate the day, exhale, rest from your routine, and thank God and trust God today, but time block for tomorrow. So that would be one that would be a nice reminder for a 15-20 minute at night. And if you want to turn your schedule, put a block of time, you could just write the words RISE or rest, or whatever word you want that is a reminder. If you need a reminder in the morning, if you need one in the middle of the day, maybe turn the word lunch from Monday through Friday into some sort of a message to yourself for Monday through Friday. Those would be fun to share in the writers chat group. If you come up with one, just share it with us in the group. And I'm looking at the time, so we won't take time to do those right now unless you've done it. And then you can share it in the chat. A couple applications, your time blocking Blobs worksheet. I've got that I'm going to put in the group, and it's just a very linear structured Excel sheet. And then I've got instructions that come with that Excel sheet that you could use if you like the digital version of this, or you can print out that sheet and do just what Cal Newport is doing, block down through your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for a start, but then get another sheet of paper to just do Mondays, and then a second sheet of paper to just do Tuesday. And you can throw these away when you're done. You don't need to keep them unless you really want that record, but you'll have the week laid out, and then every day do those columns and just keep changing, cross out. Don't, it's messy, it's okay. There's that calendar app again, and dot pages. And this is what I do when I start. It doesn't look pretty, but it's a way for me to put my thoughts of what I need and what I need to organize before it goes into a bullet journal with that ink, that black ink, so that I know this is what I will be best productive for. And the one in the middle here is a 3-month plan. The one on the right is just page spread layouts, just ideas for things I wanted to do. And then when it's finished, it looks like this, and you can make it pretty if you like the color, if you like the artsy stuff. If not, the one on the right, let that be enough for you if you don't want to take the time to color, or you don't have the time to add the extra stickers and all of that. Let that one on the right be enough to plan for what your goals are. And as you're looking at sharing things with people in social media, mine is pretty simple to, I was able to grab that Patricia Tiffany Morris pretty much everywhere. So you'll see that many, many places. Few places like Twitter wouldn't allow me to put my full name. So I am Pat Tiffany Inks. And I'm also Pat Tiffany Inks at Goodreads and at one of my Facebook pages. But if you type that out, you can find me at those places. And I'd love to see if you come up with those acronyms or have an idea or what you do for time blocking. I am, yeah, these are extras. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And just for time, I think are we done? Do we have to stop, or do you want to see one of those other apps? What's everybody finding that they would like to do? I can go.
What was the second acronym you shared?
Sweet.
Could you share that again?
Sure. I'm going to see.
And there was a question. I'm scrolling back to see if I can find it. Bitsy had a question while you're doing that. I see Structured Pro app is $30. Do you know if there's a free version?
There is a free version. It doesn't have as many bells and whistles. And I got in on the start of that, and I can show that real quickly if I can get back into Zoom here. It is amazing. I would pay that amount, that full amount, but at the first, when I asked about it, he gave me a free pro membership because he was just starting out a couple years ago.
Nice.
And I absolutely love it. So here is, can you see that slide there?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I had it a little bit of like, did I spell that right? Sweet. Yes.
Or it could be sweat.
You could do that one too if you're like going to the gym and exercising and sweating. Do that. I draw them out horizontally quite often with kind of a script letter across the calendar, just for a variation with the blocks. I wanted to show you the structured app and hide my messy desktop. So for example, yesterday, I can go in here and I can add these bits of, look how quick this is. Let's just get this full here. So the days weekly, it's not hard. I set these sort of tasks up over here. And if I want to add a task, I do down here. Let's see, let's get that up just a little bit. So I can add a task, and you'll see these things here. They show up over here. And when you start typing, these little icons show up, and it shows all the other times I've had email. And I can pick one of those and change it and just add it anywhere I want. And these has the features. You scroll for the time where you want to put it. This is how long it is. This is the date, and it's like right now it's on the 17th. So I can change that and change it to, change it to today. And let's do it 30 minutes. I can change the color to match that system I did. So these are work emails, just once. I'm gonna get an alert at the start of the task. I don't usually like it at the end because it interrupts me. And you can do it 10 minutes before it starts if you want that. Sometimes I don't like that either. I just want to know when I'm supposed to switch to it. Subtask, if you have like email Tom, I guess I shouldn't put that because I don't know who Tom is. I'm gonna, so you can make your list there and then just check them off when you're done, or you just know that they're there and it pops right onto the calendar. And see, it's right here. I think, yeah, that was it. So you can see where these are filling up, and I overlap things on purpose just because I don't know this one here was me preparing this morning and it's done. So I would just go, yep, done. I did this late last night. Technically it was today, but in the morning. And we're not quite done here. So I'll wait, and you can see it filling up. Isn't that cute? And if I want to add like work in progress, I can just go here and say add. And it's going to give me that same dialog box. And I'm going to say, got all this empty space. So I'm going to start it at 12 and do an hour and a half. And it just pops it right on. And there it is. And that's how I block in things. And it got 20 minutes. All right, what am I going to do in 20 minutes? Can't watch a movie. Can't, don't need to shower. What am I going to do? Let's see, bullet journal. And if I spell it right, it sometimes comes up with a little icon that's very similar to what I would have chosen anyway. Or if you like that kind of stuff, there's just tons of them. So I go here, I say continue my task, and it's got that automatically to that time. I don't have to mess with it. And I'm just going to create it, and you can see it right away. It's here. Now, if I decide, I really didn't want to do that there, I want to do it here. Look how easy it is, structure makes, to move this. So I've got some time after we're done here today. I might as well do this and answering emails, and then just push this. It just goes right along the timeline. Any questions on that? Here's my rest button. If I put that in every day, I can just click it here.
Does it make you fill in every part of your day, or can you fill in, use only part? Okay.
Oh no. So Sundays, I do repeating tasks. So my worship time's already set. Quite often I don't go back and go, I did it. That would be ideal if you go through there. Things I work on, like this one, I did not work on, so I'm not going to check it. And this is my husband's that flows from his calendar. I did not do the Instagram thing here, but you can if you want, but I'm not letting it dictate that I have to go back and do that. If you were doing the strict time boxing, time blocking, and you have to do that, you check it off before you go on to the next, that would be ideal. In an ideal world, you would check it off right when it's done. But sometimes I'm working on things and I just glance at it and I know it's there, but I'm looking, look at here, I'm looking here. It's here too. Whoops, here's Sunday. So worship's here. There's the charts. Let me
So
see
it puts it into your calendar app, and then I'm reading a little off the blurb from the App Store. Structured also seems to send notifications, so it alerts you, hey, it's time to do this, which I always kind of need. I have a
Yes.
bazillion alarms. Do you know
Correct.
if there's a Windows version of this? Because I see this is a Mac app.
There is a beta that I heard he was working on. I don't think it's ready yet.
Okay, thanks.
But this doesn't create tasks over into my calendar, but my calendar reminds this where my main events are. These are things I've put here. So like on today, the 18th, if I could see those both at the same time there. So there's this same color, and I have to add the color the same. That doesn't totally automatic, I don't think. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Oh, it does. Okay, so this adding this color, I did not do this because this is a repeated event. Writers Chat's repeated week after week after week. It's blue, it's coming in blue. My bullet journal task I just made, my answer, it's not cluttering up my calendar with all these little tasks that are just a one-time thing. Maybe keep these 20 minutes free. It's telling me I don't have enough rest time. So it's got little fun little, and it reminds me these tasks are overlapping, fix them. It'll say tasks are overlapping. Surely you'll think of something for these 5 hours and 30 minutes. So it's so clever. Just, I am really enjoying this. And these aren't colored yet because it's not time for them yet. And then up here, these are all your all day things. And if you look on the 18th over here, you'll see IRS tax due, IRS tax, trash, recycle, and indie bloom. So all of these things are colored, informed by my calendar app. And this is the Apple calendar. It used to be called iCal. I didn't even know they switched the name, but it's now just called calendar. But all the colors I chose here, and that's why those tips were come up with these categories with the colors you want first, because so many of these new cool apps are doing the task schedulers with the color matching. And they're feeding the tasks. If they're not color matching, they're at least giving you, you've already committed to these things. And so it's not going to give you a blank timeline, which is amazing. And I can look up here and see I have things in certain colors. And then I can just click on each one. So tomorrow, I've got these things that are on my calendar. And you can see there's the Bible reading, there's the Write at Home group. And I gotta change, that's not doctor. I don't know why that showed that way. But anyway, this particular schedule now, I know that I can trust that it knows what I've done here in the calendar, and now I can fill it in with these tasks. But I do a lot of the little work in the bullet journal. I do this because I like it. It's just geeky, and it's on my iPad and it's on my Mac now. So the two of them, I can go from one or the other and they sync. So if I'm on my iPad working on art, I can check my structured app for tasks and sync it with the Mac computer here that I'm looking at right now. And then just pick up where I left off. That was one of my biggest needs for me, was to make sure I had something that could work with both the iPad, because I'm on there a lot, and with my computer, because I do the Word documents and the writing on the big computer on the big screen. Any other questions on that? But I mean, look, if you wanted to add rest, you just go like this and it tells you where do you want it. and you go, okay, so there's my rest. And it took it out of here because these are just things you set up the night before and just throw them in. But if I type rest in, I can add that same one. Is it going to prove me wrong? It should be there. There it is. So I can add that on another day and just change the day right here. And now it's over on the 21st. So once you create it here, it creates that sort of link that you can find them. If you, you can try the trial version for free. And if you like it and you see the way that it's working here, so there's that rest that just got added just when we did. Way faster than a lot of things, extremely much quicker than me sitting down at my bullet journal, because I will inevitably lose time just by doodling. Although I love it and I use it for all the brainstorming a lot. If it's this task scheduler portion, the bullet journal is not so good. It's much better for what's in my brain, what do I have left to do, making long task lists, grouping things to do in the garden, that kind of stuff. Bullet journal is great. That's terrible to do in this. So that's why there's those 3 different elements for the time blocking. The task scheduler that gets down into the small scale, 15-minute, 10-minute. This goes down to, you could schedule something for 1 minute if you wanted in structured, but you can get to, let me do one more. So here you go, 1 minute. You could do a 1-minute shower. And it'll put it in there and just say 8 o'clock, 1 minute. That's all you have. But I discovered this a couple years ago when I've tried Fantastical. That's a paid app too, but it had some quirks that I didn't like. I've just tried probably 20 different calendar apps, and I just keep coming back to this structured, and use it when I need it, use it when I feel like I need a little more structure, and to know, like, this is just a check-in. I can move this wherever I want, and just moving calendar events is not supported. This is because this one is on my calendar, so I can't move this stuff around here. My events have to stay. But if I put it in, oops. Not sure why it's not closing. It's stuck. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So my computer froze up. I've got too many apps open.
Well, I think we can let everyone pop back on now, since we're just a little past the top of the hour. Well,
This will be available as a handout, right?
Well, I'm going to do my best. Catherine, I had great intentions of doing like a reference sheet with links to some of the articles I found helpful. And then that rest, sweet, and rise, I'll put those little bits in. Is there anything else you want in that?
Okay, well, I couldn't follow it all. It's not often I see a presentation where the words coming, and the written words, I mean, the captions come and go faster than I can read them. And it's hard for me to absorb purely audio information.
Yeah. You know,
Now,
this
even
is
if you
gonna
had
be
a
on
list of
YouTube.
those the best tips from the presentation plus acronyms, that would be good.
And the presentation will be on YouTube, so you can slow me down and stop me and pause me.
for sure. Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
get
I'm still
ready.
on 2020 on the YouTube archives.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, here, I'll put my camera back on there. We're out in the country here in the middle of Iowa, and we're in a little valley, and Verizon's the only service we get, but not very well, 1 or 2 bars. So our internet provider is just about the same. So yeah, I realized I had Zoom going, I had my PowerPoint going, and all those apps started opening. It did not like that. And I've got a fan blowing on my CPU so that it tries to keep things cool, because it's just too much for it.
So I got a question. What do you do when no matter how hard you try, there are always more things you want to do than will fit in the available time, and you aren't sure why?
Yeah. Okay. So the answer could be many, many different ways that you could do that. You saw Cal Newport, what he does is he just makes a big X and then just starts over on another column and says, okay, that didn't work. What am I going to do now? And he rewrites it and replans several times during the day, and just do that as many times as you need. The things that don't get done that day, I do an arrow. So I'll just draw a arrow horizontally to put it on the next day.
Now that won't work for me because more things will come along the next day.
Well, true, but that way I won't forget that at night those arrows need to go somewhere or they'll get lost in history. But if I want to be productive and keep those things and make sure that I don't forget them, I've got to add them somewhere else. And I can slide them on a digital calendar, Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, all of those, you can slide those events. But my bullet journal, I just take a nice pen and I try to make as nice of a pretty arrow as I can and line through an item and point to the next day or the next week. And then I just rewrite it again. And that way that doesn't get lost. So that's super important. If you've got something that you need to do and it didn't have time, you only have so many hours in a day. And you've got to fill that with sleep. When you're supposed to sleep. My husband keeps telling me that. But some of those things need to be moved to the next day, and you just rewrite it, and you just know life happens, and you don't get down, you don't beat yourself up. You're human. You only have so much energy, and some days you get sick, some days your kids get sick, and you just do the best you can. I like brainstorming pages is another thing where I've got a whole, like I'll put a header, these are garden tasks, and I'll just start writing as I think of things. And then I might go to that task list, and that's why it's nice to have separate ones, and go, oh, I have time for this. I've got 2 hours. I'm going to take that task, I'm going to pull it out of my to-do list, and I'm going to put it on my calendar. If it doesn't work, it gets put somewhere else, but it's still on my to-do list until I cross it out over there like it's done. So that's where you can see if you've got a to-do list of things you want to do, you need to do, but they don't have an actual hard start and stop time. Just make those the movable pieces of your schedule, but try not to do what I did and overlap too many of those schedules, because you start and stop, and there's no room for rest if you do that. If you fill that thing up and you have one thing that gives, you can be sure you're probably not going to put rest in there unless you just decide to go, I'm done, I'm discouraged, I'm not going to do anything. Then a few more things tumble. But if you just rewrite it when something doesn't work and try to plan for success, you're going to be way farther ahead than if you just never plan. It's the old adage, if you don't plan,
if you fail to plan, you might as well plan to fail.
Well, that's the opposite, like the negative of that. That's exactly right. I'm trying to think of the way it's said. It's like the idea you just can't get things done if you don't plan them. I mean, it's kind of out of your mental thought process at all. If you have it down on paper, it's much better than our brain most of the time, especially as you get older and words don't come. And
Catherine has a question, and then after Catherine asks her question, we'll probably close up and head to the after party. So go ahead, Catherine.
You're muted, Catherine.
Yes.
That doesn't
Shoot,
matter.
Catherine.
Y'all should be able to tell what I'm saying.
I'm not master reading lips yet.
That's the next talk you need to schedule, Melissa.
There we go.
You should always put on your lips. You do not go in public without your lips on.
Right?
Having a husband who is very analytical, and if you fill all the spaces, he will absolutely, his head explodes. He can't, even if it's my space, his head will explode. When you find that you can't get it all done, then you've put more on your list than you are designed to do.
Yes.
So sometimes what you have to do is look at your list and go, what is my priority? What is most important to me?
Yes.
And then you have to begin to adjust accordingly, because just because you can do something doesn't mean you're supposed to. And as creatives, we're going to constantly come up with ideas. And if you have not sat down and determined where you're headed and the path you want to take, then you won't be able to filter out the stuff that's going to distract you from that goal or get you to that goal.
Yes.
So it has to start with a destination.
Yeah. And that's where one of the first few steps of a lot of these methods are setting your categories of things that are part of your life. Like right now, our kids aren't at home, so that's not part of that. Right now, we don't have any animals, we don't have pets to walk or anything like that. But whatever categories we do have, set the priorities for what has to happen first. You have to have the pick up the kids from school. There's just things that have to fit in a schedule. And what if there's an accident? What if there's, there's all those things too. And the proponents talk about that, those priorities, and leaving time to take breaks and to rest and to get up and walk, and combine all those different good things from all those methods. I don't know if anyone uses those timers to remind yourself to stand or walk or whatever, but I started that probably about the first part of the year. And that it's just wonderful, because I will normally sit for 3-4 hours at a time without moving. And that's just so unhealthy. And so even my husband will come in and say, have you taken your break? And I'll quick stand up. Nope, I haven't. But see if you can add bits and pieces that you need, that will help you work and that will help you be more productive. And have the mindset that the rest of the world is doing the same thing that you are. We're over planning. We're over, our expectations are way too high in what we think we can get done in a little block at a time. So show yourself some mercy and grace and your family by giving a little bigger block to some of those things that, oh, I can do that in 15 minutes. Well, put down an hour or 45 minutes, and then you feel much more successful. And then you can put something else in there if you have time. But Catherine, yeah, that was really, really good.
Yep.
I'd like
Melissa,
to,
can you share
add
with
to-
that?
Oh, I
Go
was going
ahead,
to say,
Beth.
I'd like to
Go ahead,
add real
Brandy.
quick, something that I have posted on my monitor, because I am terrible at schedules and terrible at keeping track of everything, and giant things on a schedule telling me what I have to do makes me want to sit down and cry and hide my head forever. So I put on my monitor, schedules are only difficult for people who are undisciplined in following them. Saying, okay, Brandy, you're undisciplined in following them, but the people that can follow them and do well have learned how to discipline themselves. And I wrote that there not to bash me over the head or discourage myself, but to encourage myself that I could learn a little bit of how to schedule and to find the type of scheduling that works well for me. And I think that Patricia has really done a great job in presenting what works for her, but then also saying, it's adaptable. Find what works for you. So I just wanted to encourage everybody, if you feel overwhelmed like I do, don't just completely throw it out. It's just because you're not used to it. But we can learn.
And sometimes we sabotage ourselves. We put those expectations into our calendar, into our planner, and we just need to be a little kinder and don't have the full wall. Don't put the big to-do lists on unless you really need that, because some people that might help them. But if that overwhelms you, don't put it up on the wall. For one, put it in smaller chunks, and maybe your planner, instead of the full day column, maybe you just have half a day's column at one time that you can visually take in, and don't put the rest of the day until noon. And then you have 2 planning sessions that you've just done, which is fine. But if that visually overwhelms you, that is the worst thing you can do, is just display it and go, nope, because that will cut your productivity even more if you're discouraged.
Thanks so much, Patricia. Norma, I'm guessing you were going to ask Melissa what we have on the schedule for next week?
I was. You're right.
Melissa,
All right.
what do we have?
Again, thank you, Patricia, for all of this. It's been great. And you can all join us again next week to talk with Pam. She's going to be sharing with us about her writer's journey. And I really love the title that she came up with for this one, is I Forgot But God Didn't. And so that really just totally entices me to hear about that. We look forward to hearing inspiration from your writer's journey and being spurred on towards our own. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Writers Chat. And thank you again, Patricia, for this presentation. I hope that it really helps everybody, and you can go back and check it out on recording at the Serious Writers YouTube channel. We'll have it posted up later today, and we'll see you again next week. So bye,
And I just wanted to say, Patricia, and to those of you that will watch this later by the recording, towards the end of the recording, if you notice people start smiling while Patricia is talking, it's because we discovered color in the chat box. So there you
Which
have
leads
it.
me to say, if you decorate your planners, you will want to look at it and will be more apt to follow your schedule. So try a little doodling.
Yeah. Every
And yet-
writer's chat is a multitask for me, trying to follow the program and the written chat simultaneously.
And yet, for
Thank
those
you.
of you that color does nothing for, so many people that do this time blocking, they're doing it with a pencil and scribbling, crossing out, and color does not help them, is not important. So make sure you do you. And if color isn't important or necessary and you can manage the analytical, go that way.
You know, my supervisor, my day job, I did a real double take yesterday when she told me she was colorblind and couldn't read the color coding I put in the proposed calendar I sent her. I never met a colorblind woman who openly admitted it in my life.
All right,
Well-
Melissa, thank you. Didn't mean to interrupt.
And with that, I guess everybody go out and plan as you are directed, in whatever expressive way that you like to do it, and get to it. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.